Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Citizen A. We're reviewing the week with bloggers Tim Selwyn and Cameron Slater. Issue 3 this week, when Daniel Ellsberg released the 7,000-page Pentagon Papers detailing the real American involvement in Vietnam. Henry Kissinger referred to Ellsberg as the most dangerous man in America. WikiLeaks this week released 90,000 secret US military documents in the single largest breach of security. What do they suggest, and what future for military secrets? Tim, we haven't seen any paper files. The co-founder of WikiLeaks was very critical because electric files are so easy to fake.
So they're not scanned on there?
No, they're not. No, there isn't any actual physical. They're all electronic.
Well, that was the problem. I went to this WikiLeaks page, and it was a real bitch to try to get around to find exactly what was going. So I went to the Guardian to have a look, basically.
Oh right, nice and impartial.
Guardian's very good.
But it was interesting about the tactics and just how similar they are. These were all Afghanistan documents, but it was interesting the techniques are very similar to the Iraqi situation, especially as far as opening fire from convoys onto approaching cars, vehicles, basically civilian traffic and so forth. That was a disturbing thing that they didn't seem to learn any lessons from Iraq, that a huge amount of civilian casualties just by trigger-happy, very, very scared soldiers.
Cam, these leaks show there are possible war crimes, stories of vengeance attacks against wedding parties, and death squads operating with little oversight. How does the West win hearts and minds when we're blowing those hearts and minds into little bits and pieces?
Well, it is difficult. WikiLeaks, by releasing these documents, have done a couple of things. One is, and I'm conflicted by those. One is, I'm a big supporter of transparency. So bringing these things out into the open, as long as operationally no one is at risk, I don't have a problem with. That's the second part that may actually cause some people to die, that are not. You don't think
putting soldiers in harm's way for a stupid war in the first place is
that'll
put them to die? Or you think it's WikiLeaks?
It will, but no, WikiLeaks hasn't done that. But it does show you an interesting insight, if you are aware of military operational matters, how lax security has become around their networks.
Well, these documents. He was mouthing Lady Gaga songs while he was downloading it. I mean, there's something postmodernly beautiful about that, sure.
Look, I welcome openness and transparency. I don't think we can keep secrets. But the flip side of this, of course, is we're only focusing the laser of investigation onto the West. No one has got any documents from Al Qaeda or the Taliban.
They don't document very well. They don't release, down, send memos, no emails.
No, and generally they just blow people up.
Better than the National Party anyway.
Tim, okay, so what are we doing in Afghanistan again? I mean, this picture fairly.
Ask Helen. Ask Helen. She sent them there. She would know.
Yep.
She would know. That's what it comes down to. And now we have Phil Goff getting cold feet now.
Well, he went flying in helicopters up there in Afghanistan. He's had his trips up there and enjoyed as Defence Minister.
Yep. So, but
and Wayne Matt was coming under attack apparently as Defence Minister.
Well, they had an alert. It doesn't necessarily mean they were under attack.
Okay.
That would have been joking.
They're probably giving the minister a bit of a thrill.
What are we doing in Afghanistan?
Well, I'd like to think that we're organising things to get out as soon as we can, like everyone else should be. And if you see the Americans, they're going, well, these troops are really good, but they're saying it as a please stay. These troops are wonderful. Please stay. We need them. We need them.
I think if everybody pulled out, the Taliban would very quickly be back in control for a simple reason. They've got all the guns.
Yeah.
Right?
And the hearts and minds.
No, they don't necessarily have the hearts and minds, but you don't need to have the hearts and minds when you've got all the guns.
Key's pulling out
a better track record as far as security goes when it comes down to it. So that's the awful thing.
Key is pulling out of the provincial reconstruction team because it's sucking too much money, yet we're blowing our cash on SAS troop developments, the deployments that can't be all that much cheaper. Does Key have a real strategy here, or are we just staying there to keep America happy?
I don't believe we're staying there to keep America happy, but I mean, let's face it, you have the SAS for one reason only, and those guys are damn good at doing their job. They're very good. They're the world's best. And so if you are wanting to get the Taliban, having the SAS there is the best solution. Having the provincial reconstruction teams there, it depends whose control they're under, and I've blogged on this a couple of times. There's some very good mill bloggers operating out of Afghanistan. They're private contractors, and they are very critical of their own governments, aid agencies, cowardice in the face of actually getting reconstruction done. They're sitting behind their bulletproof vests and they're sitting behind their bunkers and wondering why water canals aren't being built, why schools aren't being built. But the actual provincial reconstruction teams like the Kiwis have got are getting out there, they're working with the locals and they're doing actually a very good job. I have no idea. If it's working, we should carry on.
Too much money.
Is money an issue when it comes to giving people freedom?
You'd think that. Tim, who wins with this wiki leak and who loses?
It's always a bad look for the United States military when their documents are exposed. We had that, whether it's videos or pieces of paper or whatever. The Pentagon Papers, Vietnam, all the way back. Any exposure always makes them look bad. Some of it, yeah, it's operational. Of course, you know, if you want to think of it as omelettes, yes, obviously the eggs will get broken.
Mm.
But really, do you need to smash them all with sledgehammers?
All of them, all of them.
Exactly.
Especially the ones on school buses. Cam, who wins with the WikiLeaks? Who loses?
No one wins, other than the anti-war people who will focus on that side of it and say, look at what the bad things are the Americans are doing or whoever is doing.
But they are doing some awful things.
Yes, and so is Al-Qaeda and so is the Taliban. You know, no one is innocent in a war. As soon as a war starts, there is no innocence.
That's the reason not to have them.
Yes, but you've got to have strength in order to avoid wars.
Yes, yes, yes. Let's wrap the show with last word. Mr. Slater, your last word this week is?
My last word is on Winston Peters. I wish the man would just give up. We don't need his kind of politics in New Zealand. We've moved on substantially from then, and pay us back our $158,000. Otherwise, every reporter, every time they meet Winston Peters, the first question should be, where's our $158,000? And the Susan Couch Trust, we need some transparency on that because that's what he said he paid it back to.
Mr. Selwyn, your final word?
The UN Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous People was in Auckland, leaving. He was here for 5 days, reporting on the work that his predecessor, Rodolfo Stravenhagen, did in 2005, I think it was. Just holding a measuring rule up against New Zealand as far as Indigenous rights goes. And it was interesting because hardly anyone was at this press conference. You'd think racism, which is basically what it boils down to and what he was investigating, his mandate is, and he was invited by the government standing invitation, because they were forced to by the Maori Party basically, to come here. And well, what was his assessment about racism? Basically, he was such a polite man, he couldn't say anything. And it seems that as long as the process inside, I suppose inside any country, continues and is seen to continue, and as long as I guess there's a Maori Party representing the
race-based party,
Indigenous people included in the government, then I suppose the UN guy could say nothing else that, well, good on you, mate. And we all went, well, we're trying. But as far as getting actual concrete things about what things should be done, how to resolve issues, Foreshore and Seabed Act, he had nothing to